Good morning, YouTube, and Happy New Year one day early. I thought that we'd finish up the year of 2016 with another optimistic video. Last video was about the Ottomans and about how if they don't really get focused on heavily, they really have the potential to cause a decent amount of damage, to really, spread their wings, so to speak. And in this video, I wanted to take a look at another country that often tends to get demolished during games of Axis and Allies 1914. But if you're new to the game, you might not realize that going in. You might think, oh yeah, Russia is a strong country. It was one of the great powers back then. I know the Ottomans were the sick man of Europe, but the Russians, I'll do well as the Russians, and then proceed to get clobbered by Germany and Austria. So we're going to take a look at Russia, and if Austria does some things that maybe reduce its effectiveness so that Russia doesn't have to face the full onslaught of Austria and then Germany, what they might do, how they might react to that. Obviously, there's a lot more moving pieces over here, so this is by no means the only way they might react, and Austria might do something different than what I have here. What I have going on the board really quick is they moved into Italy, which is pretty standard. They moved into Serbia, which they're required to do. They moved enough that they should be able to take it, and then I removed a couple casualties for them. And then instead of stacking everything into Galicia, which is the only territory that borders Russian territory on the first turn, they also decided to move into Romania. Now they moved in enough forces so that statistically Russia would have 2 units left, and the thought was that by the next turn they could move in from Serbia and take that out. Of course, they could move in more troops, they could move in fewer troops, but this is just what I simulated to show, hey, they didn't take it the first turn, but the following turn they have a good chance of taking it, and certainly if they haven't by that point, if they haven't by the Ottoman second turn, the Ottomans will have units in Bulgaria they can move up. Now, as Russia, as the Allies, we're probably going to be focusing heavily on the Ottomans this game, which means that they probably won't be able to spare those troops from Bulgaria, but Austria has no way of knowing that at this point. So, moving on to Russia, this is the situation, roughly, that Russia finds itself in. I didn't set up Germany because Germany hasn't taken its turn. We know their units in Prussia and Silesia, and they're going to be hitting Poland more than likely on their turn. So as we move across, our north side of the map, so up by Poland, that's going to be the same as any other game. We're going to be transferring a bunch of forces there to hold the Germans off, make them a little bit hesitant, or at the very least, if they decide to attack it, make sure that it is definitely a contested territory. Then we can move units directly from Moscow over there on our second turn if we need to. We are still going to fortify Ukraine. It does border Galicia. And it is strategic, we don't want Austria to take it. But we aren't going to need to fortify as heavily as we normally would. This means we either can put more units in Poland, or we can go on the offensive a little bit. And I'll let you decide in any given game based on exactly the number of forces arrayed against you and where they are, which one you think is more appropriate. But a lot of the time we run into the issue as Russia, the stack in Galicia is just too big, we can't attack it. In this case, the stack is still pretty big, I wouldn't recommend attacking it. However, if we do want to go on an offensive move, remember Romania is contested now by our forces. Truly they're Romanian forces, but you know what I mean. Which means we can double move in there, which means this army from Tatarstan, boop boop, can get in there. We could get from Moscow down to there if we wanted to. We could get from Belarus there if we wanted to. Belarus is probably going to be going into Poland, but we could move it down here if we wanted to. We could also use the Ukrainian army and then double move, from a couple other places to reinforce Ukraine. We could either aim to destroy the Austrian-Romanian army, or we could move to contest it. Either way, it's going to set up a couple things for us. First, the Austrians are going to have to now deal with Romania. They kind of did on the first turn, but now it's either in our hands or we have more forces there. They're going to have to pull more forces away from their strategically important territory of Galicia into Romania. They're going to have to move at least some stuff from Serbia over there, because if they don't, and let's say we take Romania, now Budapest, which is a 6 IPC territory, it's a big one. And then it, of course, borders their capital. If we can take, and it borders Galicia from the other side, and and Serbia as well. So that is a key territory for Austria. If it falls into our hands, and they aren't able to swiftly take it back, they're not prepared for it. That is going to be, they're going to be in a very bad spot. I'll just put it that way. Now, if we contest Romania, so we haven't wiped out all the Austrians, but we've contested it, they're going to shift more units in there, and that's fine, because it means they get bogged down over here. They keep having to divert units. I mean, on turn 2, they've got these guys in Serbia, but after that, that's pretty much done. They have to keep diverting units from there, which means that this Galicia stack is weaker. It means they have fewer troops to really coordinate with the Germans up in Poland, or, over here, if they need to do that. It means that little by little, we can defend Ukraine less, because unless Poland falls, Germany's not going to be able to get to it, unless they start going through Austrian territory. But then if they, let's say, start moving units into Galicia, then that's fewer units they have up here. So bogging the Austrians down, even if it adds a turn or two, that is going to help us a lot, because it means that the Allied economic advantage is going to come into play more. It means that the U.S. is that much closer to getting involved. It means that England down here in India has another turn or two to build up and either press the Ottomans or start swinging in here to help us defend ourselves. Really, it's just, and this is true of a lot of things with Russia, unless the Allies do things that are, unless the Central Powers do things that just really do not make any sense. And as I've said in previous videos, I'm not a huge fan of the Romanian attack. I think that it dilutes the Austrian force when you should be concentrating it. But there are things that Austria could do that would dilute it further that I've not illustrated in this video. And so there is certainly the possibility that you can attack. If you can take Galicia, you'll want to do that because it borders just so much. Basically, it's the roof along the top of Austria. It borders so much. Bohemia, Vienna, and Budapest. Vienna being the capital, so it's strategic for that reason, and 6 IPCs. Budapest because it's worth 6. Bohemia is another 3, and Bohemia borders several German territories. But you could take Galicia you want to. Typically, you're not going to be able to do that. But if the Austrians open themselves up somewhere else, some place they might be thinking that they're going on the offensive into Romania, now they've opened this door, you could sweep in, and now you've got a direct line to Budapest. It will take a number of turns, and a lot of things could happen. I'm not saying that, if Austria opens up this way, you're going to run the table, Russia. But in some of my other videos, whether Austria and Germany gang up on Poland, or Austria concentrates in Galicia and has a huge army there, Germany moves into Poland, Austria moves into Ukraine, there's not a whole lot Russia can do about it. In those situations, that is a very difficult time for Russia, just because the Allies don't have time, England doesn't have time, France doesn't have time, the U.S. isn't in the war yet, to get units over to help defend Russia or to put real pressure on the Central Powers from the other side. So sometimes that might seem kind of doom and gloom for Russia, but it doesn't always have to be that way. And in this case, if we look down south, Romania is kind of where the action is right now. If the Ottomans, move into Bulgaria and move up, then of course that's a problem for us. But if the Allies are doing an all-Ottoman approach, at least turn 2, typically when I play, the Ottomans are in economic collapse. And so that does pull a few troops from Sevastopol, but because Romania is contested, we can get units from further out in there. And we probably won't have to worry about the Bulgarian units on turn 2. either the Ottomans won't move in, or they would, but they need to divert troops back down here to solidify their home front. So maybe turn 3 or turn 4 we might have to deal with them. But that, if we bog down the Austrians and the Austrians aren't, in Ukraine or beyond by turn 3 or 4, then that is excellent for us. It means we're probably going to have a good chance of, well, at the very least, lasting a little bit longer. And in a better case scenario, we have a good chance of potentially winning, because if this eastern offensive fails or slows to a crawl, then we probably are going to win the game. We're going to have much better opportunities. It's going to be easier to seize those opportunities, to fight back, to counterattack here or down here or wherever the case may be. And there's going to be more pressure on the Western Front from our other allies. So bogging them down over here really, I think, is key. And if the Austrians happen to open in such a way that allows us to do that or makes it more likely, then that's excellent for us, because then we can start potentially moving into here, which is going to be a lot of production. We could potentially snag up Bulgaria. It's going to give us more production. We could potentially swing down here. Like I said at the beginning of the video, a lot of moving parts going on. None of this is guaranteed, but the potential is now there if we can bog down and start countering the big Central Powers assault. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is how I'm going to close out the year of 2016. It has been a very good year for me. I hope it's been a good one for you. A number of positive things have happened, including the creation of this YouTube channel. Earlier in December, of course, as many of you know, published my first book, sitting over there, Cosmic Fate, available on BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, the Apple iBookstore, and of course in person for anyone in the area. 2015 may have been a little bit rough, but 2016 was looking good, and I am optimistic about 2017. I hope I hope all of you, not just many, I hope all of you can say the same, and I will see you in 2017.